saying.
Salama family, salama. How y'all doing today? Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Today is me, Yakoba, with Minister Teyu. Minister Teyu, say hi to the family.
Greetings, family. Greetings.
So, family, as you all know, Teyu Ministries is what a truth ministry. That's our emphasis on truth, right? No matter where truth goes, that's where we go, right? Whether people like it or not, that's where we go. So, today we're going to talk about the teaching by Issachar on Ouidah, Judah. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of problems with his scholarship methodologies. There's a whole bunch of problems with how he approached historical documentation. Now, my thing is this, right? What is the agenda here, right? Because I'm like, he seems to go to urban apologist talking points. He seems to go to talking points that is there to negate who we are as a people. Now, at the same time, saying we are the people. I'm a bit confused. So we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna have a few clips, and me and Minister Tay are gonna make commentaries on these particular clips. Now, if you have issues hearing, let me know, family. Hit the one or the two. So we're gonna start off with the beginning. A few clips we got. So
I was focused on everything else, but in this video it's titled "Revisiting the Kingdom of Judah." The Kingdom of Judah. Notice the spelling there. Okay, we're not talking about the Judah that is mentioned in the Bible. We're talking about the Judah as it's on this map right here. Okay. This right here. Okay. Many of you are well familiar with this right here. And so, many of you who have come into like we say, come into the truth, this has been a map that has that for many of us, and I'm including myself as well, that was very instrumental, and like, oh my goodness, that's our people. Because see, it says the kingdom of Judah. It's talking about the Bible, right? And Judah, we were sold and shipped into slavery, right? And so this was part of the slave coast. So that's the kingdom of Judah, right? Well, that's what we're going to look at in this video here. And, because we want to make sure we're looking at things correctly and accurately. OK, and so, that's what we're going to be looking at in this particular video. This gentleman here, Pastor Stephen Darby, was very instrumental for so many people in coming into, like we say, coming into the truth, coming into an understanding that we are the people of the book. And he has done many great teachings, in short, this is a pastor that I guess somewhere down the line, he started finding out, how we are the people of the book. And he did this, one of his most memorable teachings, and it was called Negro Land. You see a screenshot of it on your screen here. And in this video, or rather in this teaching that he did, he referred to this map here. One of the many things he referred to. He referred to, this swath of land, and I'll show you that in a little bit, in Africa, on the upper west coast of Africa, called Negro Land. and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. In fact, I'm going to make that into a separate video because there's a lot even in that. So, but anyway, he was very instrumental in what he taught in that. I know for myself, the way I came across it, I think we were living in Florida, and this video just kept popping up, Negro Land. I was like, okay, what's he talking about? What's this guy talking about? And so I watched it, and I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, because at that time, I typically wasn't clicking on, I don't know, sermons. At that time in my life, I wasn't particularly clicking on those things, but this kept coming up, and I clicked on it, and man, I would say maybe 15 minutes in, I couldn't stop. And it was just, I was like, oh my goodness. And what it did was it prompted me to start digging on my own. And I started digging more and more and more, and was able to confirm so many things. And it just resonated so with me, when I was between watching it and some of the other videos that he did, and and he's since has passed on, he's passed away. But yeah, I mean, this was quite an interesting video. If you haven't watched it, I tell you, it's something definitely you need to check out. Negro Land, and like I said again, one of the things he talked about was this right here. That was like one of the key pieces of evidence, if you will, that he presented in this video. And so, but what you're going to find out tonight is this. And let me see what this one says. Okay, yeah, this was exactly where I want to be. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. Let's start off with that.
All right, so here's the thing. So if you watch the video, all throughout the video, right, Darby's name doesn't come up again, neither his position on Negro Land, neither his position on Ouidah. So what was the point of bringing up Darby? Okay, because here's the thing. I'm going to lift you up and tell you how great you are while I tear you down. That's just what happened, right? Am I missing something?
It was the great build up for the takedown. Okay. Yeah. Let me present this great guy to you, but I'm about to tell you why he failed at presenting this area as being Judah. He failed on the concept of Negro Land because he's coming up with another video and he gonna tear down Negro Land. But he gonna praise you before he take you down. That's what I see he did with Darby, right? He set him up and said, you know what, great man, you should watch the video. He got me interested in this topic, but he was wrong. That's what he did.
Look, I'm gonna put it this way. I ain't taking no sides on nothing, but here's the thing. As Pastor Kelly said, it's the nice nasty. I mean, I think it's a perfect description. It's the nice nasty. I'm going to be nice to you while I'm nasty to you. I'm going to build you up so I can tear you down. It's ridiculous. So he builds up this whole thing about Pastor Darby and his Negro Land thing, right? And now all of a sudden, everything that Pastor Darby taught, he going to tear down. But I'm going to show you as we go on that his scholarship is so flawed. I'm like, what is the agenda here, right? His scholarship is on the level of the urban apologist. I mean, that's pretty bad.
That's an excellent comparison.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And not only does he indirectly, let me rephrase that. Not only does he, I think that's right. Not only does he indirectly attack Pastor Darby, he's indirectly attacking Tail Ministries. He's indirectly attacking Benya Israel. He's indirectly attacking Hebrew Nation building. Why? Because a lot of the historical documents that we present, he went and negated or tried to negate, which you cannot negate. He even tries to negate the whole concept of there being Black Sephardic Jews being sent to Sao Tome, being sent to Angola, being sent to Africa. I'm like, what's up with that? Some people just don't have no either ability to understand historical documents, right? Or they have an agenda. Now, listen to this. Go ahead, Minister Taylor, before I go.
I was just going to say, I think there's an agenda here, because it's the same thing what I saw with what he did with Pastor Kelly, Pastor Kelly minding his own business. And then, a right hook in to the jaw while Pastor Kelly wasn't looking kind of thing. I'm like, you could have did this kind of thing behind the scenes like you preach, because Issachar preached, take it to the brother behind the scene, don't, stuff like that. That's what he preached. And then you see he didn't perform the very thing he preaches. So, there's a purpose here. He mentioned Benya Israel, he mentioned Hebrew Nation building, he mentioned Pastor Kelly, now he mentioned Pastor Darby.
So what's the agenda? So let's look at his logic, right? We're gonna see how flawed his logic is. And all of you people who go ahead and listen to Issachar, you need to do your own research. I'm telling you, don't fall for the nice nasty. I'm sorry, ain't no other way to put it. It's the nice nasty. He tries to be nice while he tells you down. Ain't nobody stupid.
Nobody's perfect on that. So let me just mention this too, as right before I get to this next slide here. One of the things I've noticed, just as I'm been in this walk and, being in the truth, and when it comes to historical study, as it pertains to our people, you have people out there who have established this kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, standard, if you will. The older the book, the more accurate the information is. Because I've encountered times where I've used, like some of the books I am going to be referring to tonight, even though the books may have been written or compiled, let's say 20, 25, 30, maybe 40 years ago, it doesn't mean that they're inaccurate, because a lot of our people, we think that, okay, I got a copy of a book from 1200 and this is the most accurate information, and boom, that's this gold standard. If you can't get your hands on a book that's written back in 1200 or 1300, then none of it is accurate. Then forget about it. Everything else is a moot point. That's not really a proper way of doing research. Research is always an ongoing thing. You understand what I'm saying? We don't assume that the first people got it right. You always want to cross-reference things with multiple sources. You never just want to pick one thing and then, put all your eggs in that one basket, so to speak. But you want to be able to cross-reference it from other voices, from other sources, and that will help you paint a much more accurate picture of what you're researching. And so so don't fall into that trap where you have people who will try to tell you that, this book was from the 1200s and this is the most accurate information. That book was written in in the 2000s. Man, by that time, they done screwed up our history and they done inserted things in there trying to hide. That's a very bad assumption to make if you're really concerned about history, because over time, people get access to more information. You know what I'm saying? So, where it may have started off with that book from the 1200s or the 1300s, over time, people get their hands on other sources and they're able to cross-reference it, and they can present something a little bit more accurate. Now,
okay, so you heard what he said. He said that old books aren't that good because we're always learning. We're coming to new knowledge. And so therefore, the old books aren't necessarily as good as the newer books. Now, does that sound sort of good to you, right? It makes a little sense until you understand how historians do things, right? The reason why older books are better is because they were at the time of the event. If I wrote a book about what's happening right now, you can't tell me that the book I'm writing right now isn't better than the book that somebody's going to write 10 years from now. Right? This is why.
Not only that, the historians are going to use older books to build their case.
Exactly. So how are you going to say, well, they put this standard here, and this standard is it has to be before such and such date. It has to be around the 1200s because that's what they say. They got this false standard. No, the books that are being referenced are by historians who were either there at the time or historians who were closer to the time, who have more of a valid understanding of the historical context. So, like, for instance, if you have a book today, right? You have a book that is written about Ouidah, right? Let's say somebody wrote a book today about Ouidah. You're going to tell me that book you're writing today about Ouidah is better than the book written, 600 years ago? Really? I mean, for the people who were there at the time, understanding the context that the Europeans who wrote many of these books were thinking. I'm like, there's such a flawed understanding of historical accuracy. I'm like, it is. That's why I say there's an agenda. Now, here's the other thing. I saw somebody in the chat say, well, he does a lot of nice things for people. He's doing a lot of good things. Well, the Catholic Church does a lot of good things for people. That don't mean their doctrine right. That don't mean their history right. I told you that if you don't look closely, you're going to fall for the nice, nasty. Minister T.
Yeah, basically, when you're doing research, the standard is the closer you are to the source, the better, right? As far as identifying primary sources. So, you move toward, later publications a lot of times, as we have proven and have seen, some of these Gentile scholars may have an agenda, right? Which is to reaffirm another people as Israel versus the true Israelites, right? So the closer you get to the source, you go pre-1850 and you start to see all of these books that say how the Negro is the true Hebrew Israelite of the Bible. Okay, so we're going with these same sources from 15, 16, 1700 that is pointing out this particular area on the map called Ouidah and why it's called Ouidah and the people in that area and who they were, right? So we're relying on those sources. And if you look at his video, Issachar's video, you'll see he didn't cite any of the books or the references that we have that clearly show the meaning behind Ouidah.
By the Europeans themselves. That's what gets me, right? Here's the thing. You know how you know somebody has an agenda? This is how you know someone has an agenda. If I'm presenting a contrary argument against someone else, but I don't discuss their position while I'm, making my new position, there's an agenda. If you notice, even when he attacked the pews, right? He used urban apologist talking points, right? Not going to the documentation, not going to the historical context, of whether or not some of those, I don't know if all of that Hebrew or whatever, but there's multiple languages on multiple pews, and one or some of them may have been Hebrew according to whoever you listen to. But there's a historical context to that area as well. He never discussed that. He never discussed about what some scholars say those languages are. Some say it's Arabic. Some say it's not Arabic. Right? Some say it's Hebrew. Some say it's not Hebrew. My point is, if you're going to be balanced, you need to bring both sides. Right? You need to be consistent. Now, understand this. If you're going to talk about old books, how in the heck you're going to tell people to take a newer book over an older book? Because we see today, what's happening today? We see in Texas, we see in Florida, we see other places that's trying to get rid of what they call critical race theory. And why are they getting rid of critical race theory? Because they don't want the history of their ancestors and what they've done to us known by their descendants, right? So as you progress throughout history, there's agendas, there's motivations behind what people write and what they don't write, right? So that's why it's better to have older texts of people who were there around the time.
Well, Minister Yacoba makes a good point. How is it you're going to tear down our argument or position on a specific topic and not cite our claims, our position, or our sources at all, and then say, they're wrong? How do you do that without even citing those sources and breaking them down? At least try to tear those sources down with other sources. But why is that? Because our sources are older. Our sources clearly state that these people were known to be Jews. That's a problem for him when he's trying to lead you to Congo. Because this, in my opinion, this whole Congo Bantu movement, this is the goal, is to get you to start talking about Nzambi and all of this stuff, right? I think that's the goal. He doesn't want to go with traditional Israelite language or knowledge, but to move toward the knowledge of the Congolese.
Well, see, that's another point, family. We didn't touch him, right? We didn't say nothing about him back in the day when we went after the Congo boys. We gave him the benefit of the doubt to grow. We gave him the benefit of the doubt to come out from among them. We gave him the benefit of the doubt, so we didn't say nothing. But guess what? Now he's attacking Israel. He's attacking Israel scholarship, and there's no basis for it. I'm like, what is going on here? What is going on here, really? We left him alone for a while. We left him alone when he was dealing with Pastor Mello. We left him alone. And Pastor Mello is promoting another Christ. Pastor Mello was promoting another Christ. He was also promoting Fatima. Y'all know about Fatima. We left him alone. But guess what? Not no more. See, the truth got to come out because there's an agenda going on. There's this nice, nasty going on. There's this, I'm going to build you up while I tear you down. See, you know, you got the little voice of the nighttime owl, you know, welcome to the sound of smooth jazz, right? You got the little sound of the smooth jazz going on, and people like, yeah, I like that low talk bass, right? The sound of the smooth jazz, right? So make sure you turn up your music and your lights, right? While I give you the nice nasty. I'm just saying. Let's continue.
A quick summary of the Mello concept or his teaching is that Simon Toko was the reincarnation of Christ and that his heart was taken out of his chest. Now, Simon Toko, the concept of his heart that coming out of his chest is tied to Catholicism. I wouldn't be surprised Pastor Kelly get into this today, but you know, you notice his logo on Issachar's site is what? A black guy with a heart coming out of his chest. Did he abandon the whole Simon Toko Mello occult teaching or not? Because that logo has no meaning to me outside of reaffirming that concept of Simon Toko being the reincarnation of Christ. What's the other reason for that logo?
So some people say he don't support Mello anymore. Okay, make it known. Make a whole video that says, yes, I was supporting Mello. I was rolling with the Congo boys, but I'm no longer with Mello. I'm no longer with the Congo boys, and here's why. And then everybody will know and understand clearly that he has separated himself. But let's continue, because this wasn't supposed to be on Mello. This is about Ouidah.
That we've all seen right here. And I put here a question. All right, so this is Ouidah, and they say, oh, this is the tribe of Judah. This is where the tribe of Judah resides. Let me ask you something. And what we've been taught up to this point is that this is comprised of people who fled out of Israel, or what they call Israel, and also people who fled out of Spain and Portugal, and they all somehow congregated here, and they called it the Kingdom of Judah. Now, let me ask you a question. So if this was comprised of people who were fleeing for their lives, why would you call it that? So this is the question I put up here. I said, so if you were trying to hide from your enemy, I meant to say if you're trying to hide from your enemy, you know, I got to fix that. Not your enemy. Would you secure a whole country and name it after yourself? Like, would you have like a big old sign there, a secret hideout? This is the Kingdom of Judah. Would you do that? Would anybody, you know, do something like that? So something like that doesn't even add up. That doesn't make sense. You understand what I'm saying? And so what we're going to get into now is I'm going to show you, we're going to get into several books here, and I'm going to show you that, no, this is not Judah as what we have been taught to believe. It's not Judah as in Judah in the Bible, not it.
All right.
You know, that was painful, right?
That was painful. The logic was so painful.
It was painful.
Look, I'm sorry. Some of y'all just make me go, just make me pause. Y'all make me pause. So they wouldn't have named their kingdom Judah if they were hiding from the enemy. Okay, that's what he said. They would not have named the kingdom Judah if they were hiding from the enemy. Okay, here's the thing, family. You see that map with Judah on it? That was written by Europeans. The people who were there were known as Ouidah or Judah. They didn't say this is my kingdom and my kingdom is named Ouidah or Judah. The people were named Ouidah or Judah. And so when they
were identified by the Europeans as Ouidah and Judah,
they were identified.
They weren't going around saying, hey, I'm Judah. Oh, Rome, come and find me here and kill me.
And not only that, man, to tell you, they went and put on the map, this is the kingdom of Judah, when the whole continent wasn't even divided yet. The continent wasn't divided until the Europeans came in there. Okay. So there were a people group called Ouidah. There were a people group called Judah or Yahudah. I'm like, really? I'm like, did some of y'all fall for that?
Well, that's one of those sleight of hand moves, right? It's a sleight of hand move. You know, a false assumption produces a false conclusion. He built up the false imagery that people who support this idea of this being the territory of Judah claim that these people named themselves Judah. No one said that they named themselves Judah. So that's a false claim or false assumption that produced a false conclusion, right? That they would, you know, surely nobody would do that. Well, they didn't. This was the Europeans identifying this group of people.
So once again, the question is, what's the agenda? Or is there a education problem? Is there a problem with analyzing information? I'm just asking, or is there agenda? Because here's the thing. It seems like to me, he's going over to grab everything that's urban apologist. Why do I say he's going to grab urban apologist information and to use that as his information? This is why.
Finish your family, but I wanted to get all that reading out of the way first so that you can really get, you know, that info. All right. So let me go ahead and play this. And I'm not going to play the whole video. I'll just play part of it. OK, here we go. OK, as soon as I get the volume up here. Hold on for a second. Let me see here. Sorry.
As especially for black people, people of African descent.
I'll go back here.
To pray. This woman you have to see.
Okay.
She's the first personality of this house. But he, the man that you can see there, he is selected to pray for the voodoo in this house, to give them water, to give them drinks, or when people need somebody to talk with the voodoo, he's the one, the messenger.
Okay.
You understand? The one who should take care of those voodoo here. But if you need a chief of the house, it is this woman.
Okay.
That's what he's trying to say. He's asking for a permission to stay.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So we're here in Ouidah, Benin. The Voodoo Festival just wrapped up on January 10th. So now, like last year, I'm just going to see different chiefs, priests, to just ask questions so we can start setting the record straight on voodoo. Because like I've said in the past, especially for black people, people of African descent, before Islam, before Christianity, you know, this is what we practice. This, animism, I mean, pretty much some form of voodoo that is now considered taboo because of us being brainwashed. So I just want to ask questions, get the facts. We're here at the source. So, you know, I'm not talking to some fake chief in America somewhere or somebody online. We're here in Ouidah, which is considered the capital of voodoo in the world. Just a little history on Benin or Ouidah. Benin is the only country that acknowledges voodoo as its national religion. Is that correct?
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Definitely.
So, you know, that's why I consider Benin. I know many people in Nigeria or other countries might be somewhat offended who practice voodoo, but again, Benin is the only country that acknowledges voodoo as its national religion. So, once again, we just want to ask some questions, set the record straight on voodoo again, and then, you know, you guys could watch these videos and enjoy them and appreciate them. So now, if you have any questions on voodoo, you know, at least you'll have a resource to go to, an authentic resource where there's no question that it's authentic. So the chief had to step away for a second, so we're about to get started here shortly.
So here's the thing. There's a clip I forgot to play. I didn't upload it. I'm going to play it now. But understand this, that he's talking. This is Dinas Demir, right? And Dinas is a voodoo practitioner himself.
And an atheist.
And an atheist. Okay. So I don't think that's a valid source, but he's saying that we'll get to the other clip later on with Dinas talking to the Israelite who happens to not know he's a Hebrew Israelite, which is a whole nother thing, which is, we're going to talk about that. It's sort of silly, but watch this particular video here And I'm going to show you something where the lack of scholarship is there. I'm going to show you something where there's either an agenda or just poor scholarship. And to me, I'm thinking an agenda, right? Because he's not trying to understand the history. He's not trying to look at all the different information and bring them together and make a logical conclusion or analysis. Now, I know some of you y'all in love with Issachar. Look, the bottom line is you got to be able to have spiritual discernment. Anybody who was hanging out with Mello from the beginning in the Congo boys, you need to put a question mark right there, regardless if you think he no longer supports them, Mr. Tate.
And using UA sources to attack the Israelite community, right? I mean, that's an agenda. Not only that, but he used to push that Mello book. And that Mello book was really clear on their belief system. So he can't claim ignorance.
Exactly. But watch this clip, family.
Then you had, you're talking about Ouidah and Dahomey. They were both fond, but they were, but they were warring against one another. Towards that end, ritual, human sacrifices were offered, the necessity for which impelled Dahomey into ceaseless slave hunting wars with its neighbors. The veneration of deceased chiefs and human sacrifices were not only a unique Dahomeyan custom. A cult of the royal dead existed in both Ouidah and Allada, as did human sacrifices at royal funerals. In Dahomey, however, the magnitude of these were much greater, and they became an annual practice, symbolizing also the dynastic continuity, veneration of former kings, and Dahomeyan prowess. Okay, so Ouidah, they were known for this kind of cultish activity. One of the things they were known for doing. Okay, and you're going to see as we go on that this still has not only continued to this day, but it's also spilled over into the diaspora. Okay, and so, but Ouidah, which later became Benin, right? You're going to see what happened there. Anyway, let me continue here. Let's see. I'll just read. This is a little extra points here. At Ouidah, especially when the slave port was part of Ouidah kingdom, both gold dust and cowrie shells were acceptable as trade. Because, see, initially when the Portuguese came, one of the things we're going to find out too, when they initially came to that region, they weren't really interested in slaves. Something very interesting I came across that stuck out to me, and that just had left me like, Let's go on here. Let me see what else I have. Okay. Now, this is in Ouidah. Okay. Deity native to the pre-colonial kingdom of Ouidah. Let's see. With all its main temple in the commercial capital and port of Ouidah. Now, Ouidah is the kingdom. Ouidah is the name of the town, just in case you're getting confused there. What was this called? The cult of the great serpent. Does that sound like Judah to you? All right, let's go on. Its local name is Dangbi, with Ouidah specifically concentrated to its worship.
I have a question, family. I have a question. Does that sound like Judah to you? Does it sound like Judah to you? Minister, tell you, does that sound like Judah to you? I say it sounds just like Judah.
Of course. I mean, why do you think we went into the worst captivity in the history of the world? Because we fell that far, right? Now, the interesting thing, he goes on to say, well, that can't be Judah. When did Israel sell Israel as well? He says that. And I'm like, okay, your Bible shows that Joseph's brothers sold him. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
So
here's something, family. It don't sound like Judah. Numbers 21, 6-9. Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, we sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord would take the snakes away from us. So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, make a snake and put it on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. So Israel looked at a snake because God said, look at it. He didn't say worship it. He said, look at the snake and you will live. Okay, what happened though? Israel did Israel stuff, worshipped other gods, took it out of context, went and worshiped the snake and not worship the creator. How do I know? Well, let's go to 2 Kings 18:4. And this talking about Hezekiah. He removed the high places and broke the pillars and cut down the Asherah, and he broke in pieces what? The bronze serpent that Moses had made, for until those days, the people of Israel had made offerings to it. Israel was making offerings to the snake. But that ain't Israel. That don't sound like Israel. That can't be Israel. No, that is Israel. I'm like, come on. Really? A little research would help.
Why do you think the Most High cut Israel off? Basically, Israel was dead, right? He was done. He washed his hands of her. Okay. I mean, that's the scripture. Okay. And then that's why he sent us scattered as slaves to the worst enemy anyone could ever have. Went through the worst persecution we ever could go under. Why? Because we did these kind of things.
All right. So I'm going to show this other clip, and then we're going to look at a few other things and shut it all down.
Now, this has to do with Ouidah, the city. In America, people say that Ouidah means Judah from the Bible. Is there any truth to that? Is there any truth, like as a tribe outside of the phone called Hebrew Israelites, have they ever came or settled here in Ouidah and called it Judah, but then changed the name back to Ouidah? Is there any truth to that?
I think now that is nonsense. Because we have nothing like Judah in our things. When we hear Ouidah, you know, Ouidah, even the real name is Ouidah. Ouidah. Because the people who are living here in the former time are Ouidah.
Okay.
People who speak Ouidah.
Okay.
Now, when the settlers came, I mean the Europeans, talking about the French people, Portuguese, we have also American, we have different masters that time at colonial time, you know. So when they wanted to pronounce Ouidah,
right,
French people say Ouidah, and Portuguese say Judah, other people say Ouidah.
Right.
So we have different spelling according to their maternal tongue. Okay. The maternal tongue of the settlers. Okay. So the real name of our city is Ouidah. 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 Okay. Ouidah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. So you never heard of, and you can ask this to the elder. Yeah. Has the elder ever heard of a tribe called the Hebrew Israelites settling here in Ouidah and calling it Judah at one time? They are surprised that they have never heard that name. Okay. Yeah. And that's why I'm doing.
Minister T.
Oh my goodness. I was laughing with my mic turned off, you know. I couldn't help myself. Have you ever heard of anyone being called a Hebrew Israelite in your community? What? That's a modern term that we call ourselves right now. We never went by that name. I mean, that's ridiculous. Let alone you're asking a guy, at best he's 40 years old. There's no sign of scholarship or education. I'm like, are they the proper source just because they happen to live in the land and be, you know, the people of that land in Ouidah today? Are they a credible source? You know, that's like me going to the countryside and asking about slavery to someone today. I don't know, boss. You know, I mean, it's just a horrible question. I mean, Dinus looks bad actually asking that question.
So that I couldn't help but laugh either, dude. I ain't gonna lie. So it's like this, family. So somebody comes up and saying, you know what? And they're talking to the Native American and Indians in America. You know what? I talked to some of the tribes here in Americas, and I asked them, I say, are there such a thing as Native Indians here? And they're gonna say, I ain't never heard of nobody called Native American Indians. I mean, literally, right? It's the same thing. And it's like, well, we know they weren't called Indians, right? According to
Right.
history.
Like, yeah, that's like saying you're asking a Cherokee that question, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, my parents said we Cherokee. I don't know nothing about no American Indian nonsense.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. The scholarship is so flawed. And it's like, well, is it a lack of scholarship on the agenda? That's what you got to determine for yourself. Look, some of y'all like people who are all nice and crispy and huggy and teddy bearish, right? The problem is that's how you get deceived. That's how you are led astray. The
No,
devil
they
comes
like
as
that
an
key,
angel of light.
they like that Keith Sweat voice. Good,
Yeah.
yeah. Good evening. We're gonna groove tonight in the jazz and love. And I mean, you know, y'all got to get past that. You know, hold people accountable for their teachings and their content.
So I'm gonna share this, and then I'm gonna share a little clip from our teaching about Ouidah, which he obviously didn't look at, which he should have taken the time if he was being an honest researcher. All right, so Great Popo is a town, arrondissement, and commune in the Mano department of southwestern Benin. The commune covers an area of 289 square kilometers, and as of 2013 census had a population of 57,000 people. The term Grand Popo is a European exonym for the ancient town and kingdom of Hulagan, Great Hula, the Hula Wula Fila people that once dominated the Togo Benin coast, traditionally regarded Great Hula as their ancestral town of common origin. It is unclear why Europeans began calling it Popo rather than Hula. It may come from a generic Yoruba term, Popo, for peoples in their west, which was subsequently borrowed by the Portuguese to refer to the Hula Fula specifically. An alternative theory connects the Popo term to an ancient ruler called Kapokpo of Tado, an Aja town in the interior, which the Europeans may have confused with Hooligan. The town grew around the slave trade, but coastal erosion has now destroyed most of the old town. The town is now a center for voodoo and home to a Finnish American cultural center, Villa Caro. The town's main industry is fishing. The town inspired the name of the French electronic music, blah, 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 right? So we got the Grand Popo, right? In some writings, they call it the Great Popo. Now I'm gonna show you a piece from our video we did about this, which he could easily have found if he wanted truth, but no, he went and specifically looked for urban apologist talking points, which means that all you want to do is tear down your own people, right? And as Minister Teyu has said, it seems that his goal is to point people to the whole Congo worship thing and the whole in zombie stuff, right? If you want to be a zombie, right? It seems that he's all into that, right? So there's an agenda to do that, right? I mean, look, it is what it is. Truth is truth, lies are lies, right? So, all right, here's the video we did about it. All right. And it's just part of it. You could go watch the whole thing. Being Judah. Société, la Guensingin, Geographie, Bulletin, Montpelier. The date of this book is 1890. This French book states, Ouidah, Fida, Ouidah, Judah, or a Judah, is an old city frequented since the 16th century by the Portuguese slavers who gave it its name. Its inhabitants were said to be Judaic, and they were indeed considered as a remnant of the scattered tribes of Israel. Okay, so here's one source that says that Ouidah represented the scattered tribes of Israel. So if someone tells you it's not, you can tell them, well, I have a source that says otherwise. More evidence from Elise Recluse. His book is called The Earth and Its Inhabitants, The Universal Geography, Northeast Africa. Elise Recluse states about Ouidah, also known as Judah or Judah, known to Europeans by various names of Theta, Harida, Ouidah. The old writers called it Judah, and its inhabitants were said to be Jews. Okay, that's two sources. Okay, so I'm like, the ones who say we're incorrect, are they lying to you? I'm giving you the evidence. You can go look it up yourself. Ronald Jean, PhD. The Seven Feasts of Israel and the Messiah, second edition. Memoirs of the Reign of Basa Ahadi. In a 1790 edition of the Memoirs of the Reign of Basa Ahadi, King of Dahomey, by Robert Norris, a map was portrayed which was a direct eyewitness account by the English and French. On the map, they designated the town of Ouidah as the country of the Jews. The town is called Judah or Ouidah. The Portuguese call this town Judah. The people today in this town still pronounce their town in their native tongue as Judah. So I have a question. I just have a question. If we could come up with three references, couldn't he have found one? I'm just asking. If we found three references, could he have not come up with at least one reference showing that Ouidah was called Judah and its inhabitants were said to be Jews?
Well, he did say that you need more than one reference to be right. We gave three references, which we did this video last year, and he's doing a teaching on Ouidah and would not even look at our video or our information in order to prepare a rebuttal. I mean, he didn't put no effort in there, so he just stayed on his focus narrative in order to make the false assumption that because these people practice voodoo and these people worship snakes, that somehow they were not descendants of the Israelites in the past. You can't jump to that conclusion. But we gave him three sources. Now let's see if he comes back and knock down these three sources with some source from 2021.
See, that's my whole thing. He's doing like the urban apologist. He's ignoring all of the factual evidence and primary sources and valid documents that show that it was called Judah and its inhabitants were said to be Jews. I mean, I'm just asking, family, could he have not found one source if he was being honest? If he didn't have an agenda, could he have not found one source? We got three. We have three sources. See, this is why he doesn't want to go to the old books. He wants to go to the newer books because the newer books aren't going to tell you that Ouidah, Judah was known to be Jews. He don't want to go to the older texts that tell you that it means that Jews were there or Israelites were there. See, this is why he says stay away from the old books, because that's not a good standard. We should go to the newer books because the newer books have new information. Come on now. Come on now. Mama ain't raised no fools. Now, here's the other thing. So he goes into the whole idea about Dahomey and how Dahomey sold us into slaves. And so, therefore, because they sold us into slaves, they cannot be Israel. Because they sold us into slaves, they can't be Israel. Like Minister Teyu said, that ain't no different than Joseph's brothers when they sold him into slavery. Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to end it on this. We know for a fact that during the time of 70 AD, right when Rome was conquering Jerusalem, Israel was fighting Israel. Israel always fighting Israel. Northern and southern tribes were fighting each other. During the time of the conquest by the Romans, They were fighting each other. What they had, people who were called zealots. That's what they call them today, zealots. Member of a Jewish sect noted for its uncompromising opposition to pagan Rome and the polytheism it professed. The Zealots were an aggressive political party whose concern for the national and religious life of the Jewish people led them to despise even Jews who sought peace and conciliation with the Roman authorities. A census of Galilee ordered by Rome in AD 6 spurred the Zealots to rally the populace to non-compliance on the grounds that agreement was an implicit acknowledgement by Jews of the right of pagans to rule their nation. So they had a problem with their own people. They were fighting, according to Josephus, right before they got attacked by the Romans.
Yeah,
Right.
basically they were in disarray, fighting one another, and were not prepared for the invasion.
Exactly. You know, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. A little research goes a long way. So I want to show you one more thing right here about those zealots. The siege of Jerusalem. Roman military blockade of Jerusalem during the first Jewish revolt. The fall of the city marked the effective conclusion of a 4-year campaign against the Jewish insurgency in Judea. The Romans destroyed much of the city, including the Second Temple. The majority of the information on the siege comes from the copious notes of the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus. In 63 BCE, the Roman general Pompey captured Jerusalem. The Romans ruled through a local client king and largely allowed free religious practice in Judea. At times, the divide between monotheistic and polytheistic religious views caused clashes between Jews and Gentiles. This friction, combined with oppressive taxation and unwanted imperialism, culminated in 66 in the first Jewish revolt. The revolt was successful at first. Jews' forces quickly expelled the Romans from Jerusalem, and a revolutionary government was formed that extended its influence into the surrounding area. In response, the Roman Emperor Nero sent General Vespasian to meet Jewish forces, an endeavor that pushed the majority of rebels into Jerusalem by the time Vespasian was proclaimed emperor in 69 CE. In April 70 CE, about the time of Passover, the Roman general Titus besieged Jerusalem. Since that action coincided with Passover, the Romans allowed pilgrims to enter the city but refused to let them leave, thus strategically depleting food and water supplies within Jerusalem. Within the walls, the Zealots, a militant anti-Roman party, struggled with other Jewish factions that had emerged, which weakened the resistance even more. Israel always fighting Israel. That didn't change when we went into West Africa. Okay, Israel always fought Israel. We see that in the Bible. The northern and southern tribes always fought each other. So here's the thing. Either somebody has an agenda or somebody has poor scholarship. And if you have poor scholarship, then you shouldn't be teaching people. You shouldn't be leading them astray. You should be doing more due diligence in your research. It seems to me that Issachar's agenda is to tarnish the awakening of those who we call Messianic Israelites, right? Because we tie ourselves not only to West Africa, we tie ourselves also to Spain and Portugal, right? And if you look at it, I'm like, well, what is your agenda? And look, and then he says, well, Bantus are Israelites, but yet he's tearing down all of the Bantus who are in that area. I'm just saying it don't make no sense to me unless you got an agenda. I don't get it. And as Pastor Kelly said, it's the nice nasty. You see, as we showed you, you build it up just like he did, build up Pastor Darby, and then tear him down while smiling in your face and telling you how great his video is. Where if his video is that great and he was wrong on Negro Land about Jews being there, then why in the heck are you promoting Pastor Darby's video then? Because it's the nice nasty. Any final words, Minister Tate?
Well, why was Pastor Darby's video so great when he just said it was wrong? And we know he's coming out with a teaching on Negro Land, and obviously that's going to be an attempt to what? Tear down the argument about Negro Land, right? And I think the agenda is to put the focus on the Congo and zombie and that whole practice. And I mean, you know, some of those guys like the Congo boys, they believe in voodoo, and that's his buddies. You know, I'm like, so what's going on? You know, there's something going on here, because I'm like, if you're gonna teach against, you know, the argument that that map meant there were Jews in that territory, then you have to go and deal with Elysée Reclus. You have to go and deal with the document, the French document in French that said that Jews lived there. You have to address those in order to make your case. I'm sorry, but you didn't even attempt at doing it. So, you know, the fact that you didn't make that attempt to address those books and those claims and those 3 books that we just showed you tells me you have an agenda that is not true.
So look, family, it is what it is. Standing for truth isn't always going to be popular. You know I'm going to get all of the emails. I'm going to get all of the texts. Well, why are you going after Israel? Israel always fighting Israel. Y'all hindering the awakening. I told you already. We stand for truth. It don't matter if it's Israel going against the truth. It don't matter if the urban apologists going against the truth. I don't care. This is a truth ministry. And if you don't like it, then this isn't the place for you.
And why, you know, it's a good question that you raised already, but why use UA's material to go after the Messianic Israelite community? You know, I mean, because it's not balanced arguments at all. So why even use that? And then, you know, if you're going to go, like I said, you need to go and tear down the books that we have referenced. I mean, you're not even doing that, you know, and that's concerning.
And as someone just posted, there is a movement in the Congo that rejects some of the Bantus in West Africa. And that's what this is all about, right? He still adheres to this Congo boys doctrine. That's what it is. He's still sort of adhering to some of the teachings of Mello. That's what it is. I don't care what he say. Just like he built up Pastor Darby and tore him down. Same thing with Mello. You got to believe half of what he say, because what he's doing is he's probably adhering to some of the Mello teachings while he's rejecting publicly Mello, because Mello teaches another Christ.
Well, so, isn't his logo a character with a sacred heart? Just like
that's
Mary.
The whole thing. See, the whole thing, in case y'all don't know, the whole thing was what's the guy name? They called him Messiah figure, Nate?
Simon Toko.
Yeah, so Simon Toko has a X in his heart, right? You know why he had an X in his heart? Because supposedly he got shot, right? He got shot and he survived. And they say he's the Messiah because he got shot and he survived. And they say he when he came, he did all these wonders and miracles, and many people followed him. Well, Simon Toko himself said he wasn't the Messiah, but they pushing him to be the Messiah, just like them people did with the king of Ethiopia. They pushed him to be the Messiah figure, and he said, "I'm not the Messiah." And that's what's going on here, in my opinion. There's still some mellow doctrines seeping in, right? There's some Congolese, them Congo boy doctrines seeping in. And guess what? I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to teach the truth to the Messiah. I work for one person and one person only. That's Yeshua. That's who I work for. I don't work for you. I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm trying to please the Most High, because that's my Father. He loves me. He died. He sent his son to die for me. And therefore, I have one agenda, and that's his kingdom. Any final comments, Minister Tate?
No, I think you covered it. I'm good.
All right, family. So validate our information. We got a ton of videos, right? Benya Israel got a ton of videos. Hebrew Nation Building got a ton of videos. You can go vet these for yourself. You don't have to go listen to Issachar with his faulty logical fallacies. You can go do your own research. You don't have to listen to none of us, but some of y'all don't like to do your own research. Some of y'all don't like to pick up the fork and feed yourself. You like to sit there and let people feed you like the baby you are. But here's the thing. The Bible says in the last days, there's going to be many false prophets, many false teachers and deceiving a whole bunch of people, and they're going to go to hell for believing a lie. I see it every day. I see all of these Israelites rejecting the Messiah. They're saying Yeshua never existed. I'm like, I can't. Some of y'all got issues. Anyway, I ain't want to make this personal. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Love you with the love of the Messiah. Share this video, family.